All right, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that I am always honest about is whether or not I'm getting paid to do something. And today, I got paid to watch this video by Tuhu Sniper, ranking all of his gachas to see which one is the best. And so with that, let's go ahead. Let's see what his thoughts are. Apparently, he is one of the bigger experts in the gacha space who's played and experienced a lot of different titles. And so we can imagine, right? He will have some great insight to share. And so with that, we have some experience with gacha games ourselves, and I'm excited to see where people are placed, or really where the games are placed on this list. I will say though, from the very first frame of the video, yeah, that's a crazy background. That is 1,000,000%. That is a crazy, crazy thing to like have hanging up in your room. So yeah, let's get right on into it.
So dudes, it's your boy Tuhu. Recently, one of my viewers over at twitch.tv/ToeSniper98, go give it a follow by the way, asked me to rank all the gachas I play, so I spent some time on stream doing just that. But instead of just clipping out that part of the stream and slapping it over here into my YouTube channel as regurgitated content like most streamers do, I want to make a full video.
Why was he so mad? Wait, I feel like I need it. Why was he so mad?
Like most streamers do.
Wait, he was like actually mad. Yeah, he's actually mad.
I want to make a full video out of this and go step by step as to why I put each gacha where I did. For those of you who don't know who I am, welcome to the channel. I'm ToeSniper98, but you can just call me Tuhu like I called myself earlier.
Yeah, I gotta say right off the bat, Tuhu, this is a crazy way to start off the video. You actually do seem pissed, my friend. And so maybe we'll find out the reasons for why this anger has been forming inside of you. Holy shit.
I am the god of gacha games.
Okay, I see why the anger is forming inside of you. The question that I had at the start of the video is immediately answered within 30 seconds. Gotcha.
I play and main a dozen different gachas with more to come in the future. Don't believe me? If those body pillows on the wall behind me don't convince you, then maybe this will.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if this is something to brag about. Maybe I don't have the right frame of mind on the matter, but like, this is something that I wouldn't brag about. I guess the way that he's wording it is like, this is a flex. I personally wouldn't view this as a flex.
The gachas I currently main are FGO, Azure Lane, Arc Knights, Genshin Impact, Blue Archive, Goddess of Victory Nikke, Honkai Star Rail, Ether Gazer, Snowbreak Containment Zone, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, and last but not least, Girls Frontline 2. For this tier list, I'll be ranking my gachas based on how good I think they are as overall games, and I'll give a few reasons as to why each game is where they are, like I said earlier. Maybe one day I'll pull a Psyche and review each of my gachas in depth, but this will have to do for now. Let's start at the bottom and then work our way up so that we end on a high note. Down in the sewers where it belongs is Blue Archive. Wikipedia calls it a tactical RPG, and I suppose technically it is, but in reality it's a skill management simulator with the most infuriating and bullshit gameplay RNG out of any gacha I've ever played.
The thing is, he just comes off as like angry the entire vid, but it's like also a little funny. Like, he's like so mad about these games that it's becoming funny.
Don't get me wrong, Buru Aka is a fantastic casual game. One of the best out there, I'd argue, in fact. It has a sort of built-in reroll mechanic at the start, so you can try to start with a 3-star character that you like. It's got a battle sweep function for nodes you've already 3-starred, so you can use up your stamina instantly. Endgame is mostly optional, and it's got supposedly a good story with great characters who are wonderfully autistic, and most of them have plenty of fan art for you to enjoy on social media.
Okay.
A lot of which is, questionable. But since I'm ranking these games on how good they are as actual games, unfortunately none of that really matters here. Instead, I'm here to tell you about Blue Archive's gacha and gameplay and how horrendous they are. The gacha system is trash. The base 3-star rate is 3%, which is pretty good in a vacuum until you realize that the actual rate up percentage is only 0.7%. Or in other words, it's only about a 22 or 23% chance that you'll actually get the rate up character character whenever you do roll a 3-star. So statistically speaking, most of your 3-stars will end up not being who you want most of the time. It does have Spark Pity in that once you do 20 multis, the game lets you obtain the raid up directly, but that pity does not carry over between banners.
Is the 50-50 really that bad, guys? Think about it this way. It could always be worse.
Which especially sucks compared to another gacha that we'll talk about later that also has the same Spark Pity, but does it much better. Blue Archive's endgame consists of raid bosses and challenge quests that frequently have layers on layers of RNG that you gotta deal with. And sometimes that RNG is so bad that it kills your run instantly the moment it happens, and you have to reset. For the raids, you only have an hour to complete each attempt, and I've had runs that kept getting such bad RNG to the point where I lost those runs just from running out of time. The teams you have to use for endgame are...
Imagine a raid only being available for one, or like an endgame thing only being available for like 1 hour out of the day. And so you have to make sure that your time in the day is literally free. I'm not sure if this means that you start the raid and you only have like an hour from when you start, or if it's like a set time of the day that the raid occurs. Because if it's a set time of the day that the raid occurs, oh man. But if you get to start it and it's an hour, then that's, I guess, slightly a little bit better. But that's still like, okay, like why have a time limit for something that you can retry? It's just like, okay, if you don't have good RNG, go fuck your, like,
extremely gacha dependent because,
like, sure, there's time limited endgame content. There is time limited endgame content, but that shit takes like 2 weeks or a month, right? It's 2 weeks or a month, not like 1 hour. There's a huge difference. You get to like go back, regrind, level up your stuff if it's 2 weeks or a month. But if it's an hour, it's actually like go fuck yourself.
Because there are 4 different attack types, enemies can be any one of 4 armor types that those attack types are good against. And this applies to endgame content too. This means that if you want to keep up with the raids, you gotta have DPSs from every attack type, and the best ones are oftentimes limited characters, so if you didn't roll them, then you gotta settle for weaker options who are a lot more susceptible to raid RNG. Yes, the game does let you take 1 support character, so you can just borrow someone else's top tier to be fair, but a lot of the time, that's just not enough, and you'd rather have your own anyway, so you can run the same top tier twice in 2 different teams in the same raid. Teams are also extremely expensive to invest into. A full team in Blue Archive consists of 6 characters, 4 frontliners and 2 backliners. So that's 6 characters who, if you're going for like a top 5k or a top 10k spot depending on the server, must have UE levels, the latest tier 9 or tier 10 gear or whatever we're on right now, and maxed out skills for the most part. All this together provides for an absolutely miserable endgame experience. So
I think one thing that isn't talked about enough in WoWa is how player friendly teams only being 3 characters is. Has anybody even talked about that? Has anybody even explored that? The fact that like a best in slot team is guaranteed in WoWa, a best in slot team is guaranteed to be cheaper than any other game. Like every character inherently is just going to be less expensive to like get their best team for. Because again, like simply not needing a 4th character that fits the best in slot automatically makes every character cheaper. It automatically makes every character cheaper. And guess what, guys? In every team in the game, the 3rd slot is your support. And guess what? Verena and Shorekeeper are still like high tier. And so you really only need 1 other character for a best in slot team if you've pulled Shorekeeper. Because Shorekeepers can be used in almost every single team. And so you really just need 1 other character with your DPS. At most.
If you have enough chromosomes to have fun with something like this, then I commend you, bro, because I sure as hell don't. Oh, and daily reminder, Nexon. In the...
Did he just say that everybody that likes Blue Archive has Down syndrome? Oh my god. And why does he play the game? Why does he play it? Isn't that just like, he's too deep? He's too deep.
Next tier up, we've got Honkai Star Rail, Fate Grand Order, and Snowbreak Containment Zone.
Low-key based. Actually based.
These are gachas that I wouldn't recommend unless you really like what they have to offer. By the way, for the middle tiers here that have multiple gachas, they go from left to right in terms of how good I think they are in each tier. Or in other words, the ones on the left, I think, are better than the ones on the right.
Okay, so HSR is the best here.
Third-person shooter, so that on its own will likely filter out a lot of people who don't like shooters at all. It's a decent game with an emphasis on Coomer content ever since they pivoted to that last year or so, and it's got big events with lots of different game modes. Its gacha is also arguably one of the best. It's got dedicated rate-up banners where you are guaranteed to get the rate-up, as in you don't have to worry about a coin flip, in exchange for a slightly more expensive hard pity, and every multi you do on these limited banners accumulates until you have enough to obtain tokens for other permanent 5-star characters, or a random 5-star weapon.
That doesn't sound terrible, but one thing that does look terrible in this game are the character models. Is it just me, or in the actual gameplay, the character models look like fucking doo-doo water? Like, the animations and the models actually look like doo-doo water. Like, the best part that I saw in that banner art was the 2D, was the 2D character. Not the fucking animations of whatever intro they were doing.
If you've rolled the weapon banners. Older characters rerun quite frequently, and you can get free 5-star characters every now and then during certain major events. The issue I have with Snowbreak is that its gameplay after a while doesn't really feel that satisfying anymore. I picked up
this just looks kind of bad.
Snowbreak because I grew up on shooters, first-person shooters though, not third-person shooters, because they're not really my thing. But hey, cute anime girls with big titties and ass cheeks shooting up bad guys is usually good enough for me. But I'm not terribly interested in any of the side modes that come with the events, and a lot of them don't even give you gems for gacha, and even if they do, I don't think they give you a whole lot. Some of them are also unnecessarily grindy for no reason. The other endgame modes that Snowbreak has also get boring after a while. The ones that reset every week or every 2 weeks are fine since they give a lot of gems, but the other modes where you gotta grind the crap out of them to squeeze out as many gems as possible stop being fun after a while and start feeling like chores. Worst of all, even though Snowbreak focuses on the Coomer content, recently they had to censor themselves and apparently removed several skins from the game, or at least, censored them. I get that this is a Chinese game, so they gotta comply with Daddy Winnie the Pooh's rules for good commie children, but they didn't need to force the overseas servers to do the same. I'm aware that there's a very easy uncensored trick to get around this, but there was no need to do that, to be honest, because if Genshin can censor their characters but not force it onto their foreign players, then Amazing Season has no excuse not to either. So I wouldn't recommend Snowbreak unless you like shooters and you like staring at your characters' asses and side titties while they shoot bad guys or something. And even then, if that's what you really want out of a gacha, then oh boy, will I be talking about another gacha that's much better than this. FGO has the best story out of any gacha I've played. Hoyotards think Star Rail's story is top tier somehow, so they won't know a good story when they see one. It's also got the most unique gameplay I've ever seen out of any of my gachas, because technically it's a turn-based game, but what the hell is this UI, and what are these cards supposed to do?
This has to be the best description of FGO's gameplay I've ever heard. It actually has to be the best description of FGO's gameplay I have ever heard. What the fuck even is this, and what do these cards do? Oh, that's perfect. That's everybody's reaction when they try this game. They're just like, what the fuck am I looking at, brother man?
All of its characters come with 3 or more different outfits by default, which is something most gachas don't bother doing unless they put out skins that you have to buy somehow, and all the skins in FGO are free. And the best feature of this game is the grailing system that lets you make any character you want much stronger than they're supposed to be by taking them as high as level 120 when the normal max level cap for even 5-star servants is only 90. It's as close to a proper marriage system as you're gonna get in this game. But the 3 biggest issues with FGO are how garbage its gacha is, how obscure its gameplay is, and how grindy it is. It's a 1% chance to roll 5-star characters, and while the rate up is actually really nice at 0.8%, so you should get the rate up most of the time, good luck rolling that 1% chance in the first place. It's gonna be harder than it sounds. Oh, and thanks to Genshin, it finally has pity now. It didn't always have one, by the way, but you still have to do 30 more.
One copy is guaranteed on the 330th. So guys, is a 50-50 really that bad? Hey, is a 50-50 really that bad? Man, I'm gonna be real. It could be a lot worse. I've said it once. I'll say it again. It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot fucking worse. Like we're seeing right fucking here. Because this is gacha terrorism. This is developer terrorism right here. This is free-to-play terrorism.
Multis to hit it. The gameplay is extremely unintuitive, and its tutorial, if you can even call it one, doesn't even cover anywhere near what I would consider to be the basics of the game. Most gacha games, especially newer ones, are designed so that you don't have to be like an uber nerd about its mechanics to play them properly. As long as you know enough, you'll be fine and still have a good time. Not so in FGO. There are many things about its gameplay that the game itself simply does not teach you when it really should. I'm not exaggerating when I say that most FGO players out there do not know how to play it properly. And even if they are playing properly, do they know exactly what they're doing? Sorry to throw Mr. Fobmaster under the bus here, but I saw him spamming Mighty Chains when he was doing the Ort raid last year, but I don't think he knew why. And oh my...
He's just talking shit about everybody. He's just talking shit about everybody. Like, I feel like most people didn't even think Fob played FGO, but he managed to like sneak in a fucking shot right at him. Holy shit.
God, the grind, bro. If you've only ever played Hoyo games or any other gacha that I would consider to be like modern or new age, and you think leveling characters in any of them is bad, then I don't know how you'd react to something like this, what this game is gonna make you do. Characters need hundreds of materials that you have to farm yourself. Materials are never guaranteed outside of like event shops and certain event types like raids and lotteries. And worst of all, there is no auto.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Seeing that alone makes me not want to play the game ever. The fact that he had over 20,000 of a material was like, huh? Man, echoes are so bad. Man, RNG substats are so bad. We should have this instead. We should have this instead of RNG substats. You're right. I'd prefer if there was no equipment and we had whatever the fuck this is instead. Guaranteed strength. You know what I mean?
You gotta farm everything the hard way. And there technically is an auto now, but you gotta download some third-party thing for that, and it's not intended by the developers. So the only reason why I'd recommend FGO in this day and age is for people to learn what an actual good gacha story looks like. But you don't even have to play the game for that, since people record it and put it on YouTube anyway. Or just go play Limbus Company like Tectone and Genazod have been recently. I call Star Rail FGO 2.0 sometimes, so it makes sense that they're here together in the same tier. Kinda cute, actually. It's also a turn-based game, but a much more traditional one, or in other words, speed, speed, and more speed.
Do you think he's going to mention Mr. Pokey in this section? Type 1 if you think yes. Type 1 if you think that there's going to be a Mr. Pokey diss somewhere in here. And type 2 if you think he's not going to. Guys, I don't think we need a poll. We 1000%, based off the responses I'm seeing, we do not need a poll. This is just overwhelmingly yes.
And crits. Lots of crits. Thank God for DOT and break teams. I have exactly two things that I like about Star Rail. The characters and the gameplay, I guess. I'll go into more detail about that later. For all their faults, MiHoYo is undoubtedly one of the best at coming up with banger character designs, and that's no different in Star Rail. Yeah, I'm aware that characters all kinda dress the same in this game, but that ain't gonna stop me from motorboating Bronya's tits if I get the chance.
Okay.
Now the gameplay. Coming from FGO, which was my very first gacha, unfortunately for me, and how mechanically complicated and weird that game can get, I look at Star Rail's gameplay and I don't see jack. It's nothing but stat sticking and pressing basic attack, skill, ult, and spacebar.
Well, think about it this way, buddy boy. You haven't seen My Day yet. You wanna know what My Day is? My Day is actually just spacebar. You don't have your skill anymore. You don't have your basic attack. You You literally only have your ultimate. And this is the thing. My Day starts off combat letting you use his basic attack and skill. He loses that ability as combat persists. My Day's E6, the E6 upgrade is that he enters combat while not being controllable. His E6 basically ensures that you lose any semblance of gameplay that you had on him before. That is what his E6 does. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Probably the most complicated thing I do on a somewhat regular basis in Star Rail is running Yun Li and keeping track of when to pop her ult or something. Despite its mind-numbing simplicity, however, I still enjoy Star Rail gameplay because there's a kind of flow to it that I really enjoy. It's something that all three big Hoyo games have, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, the flow is clicking that hourglass at the top right corner of your screen. Like clicking that hourglass and then just walking away from your computer and then coming back to the stage cleared. That's the flow. It's wild.
The flow of hitting your rotations perfectly, or as well as you can anyway. Knowing how well your teams work to the point where you know exactly which buttons to press at which times and hitting ults as soon as you get them. There's a video by a YouTuber named Day9, for those of you who are familiar with him, that explains why real-time strategy games, StarCraft Brood War in particular, is so satisfying to play for people who are good at them. And I think a part of that logic holds true here, as weird as it sounds for me to compare Brood War to a stupid gacha game.
Day9 is getting old, man. Man, seeing Day9 with like gray hair and stuff, it's almost like, it's a little like sad. I remember when this dude was just making the funniest Hearthstone content in the history of like mankind. He would just have like Day9's Hearthstone content was immaculate. I feel like we might have to watch a little bit of that later. He was so fucking funny. Like I would watch compilations of like Day9 just like fucking talking about the game. It was like the funniest shit ever.
But most everything else about Star Rail is a hot frickin' dumpster fire. Its story blows, and for a gacha whose developers are apparently trying to focus on the story experience ever since Panakani.
Did he just call it Panakani? Did he just call it Panakani?
Ever since Panakani, that's just embarrassing. It's got the snowbreak symptom of having side game modes that are fun the first couple of times you play and then turn into absolute chores after, and I already spent an hour in my last video talking about why I think half of Mr. Pokey's take on Star Rail's power creep is trash. So
everyone who wrote 2, hey, looks like there's a bit of a cop moment for you. All the people who wrote 2. We already knew this was gonna happen. The writing was, in fact, on the fucking wall.
So I guess if you enjoy Star Rail's story for whatever reason, then sure, that's fine. Ain't nothing wrong with enjoying trash. I mean, I would know with how many gachas I play, but I don't think Star Rail offers much more than that. Now, on to the next tier. This one is the exact opposite of the last one. Instead of gachas that I don't recommend unless you have a very good reason to play them, these gachas are ones that I would generally recommend unless you have a good reason not to play them.
I expected Pokey to be brought up more times in that section, and the fact that he was only like mentioned in passing at the end is kind of crazy. I legitimately thought there was going to be more.
These games here are Aether Gazer, Azure Lane, Nikke, and Genshin. Genshin Impact is by far the best exploration gacha to me. No gacha since, sorry Wuwa, compares in terms of the absolute exploration experience that Genshin provides.
I bet Tohu Sniper pays a lot of money for the game. You can see over here, bro's got the Shalonen, Lan Yan, Silali, and Mavuika. I wonder why he's having such a good time. I wonder why he's having such a fantastic time exploring in the game. He's got $1,200 and a dream in that land.
To me, it's because Genshin has the best visuals and ambience. I know that a lot of players out there much prefer Wuwa's exploration because it's a lot more streamlined and a lot more convenient, and that's great and all, but I'm not a lot of players. I don't get the same vibes when I go around exploring in Wuwa like I do when I do the same in Genshin. MiHoYo's character design powers are also on full blast here too. Some of my favorite gacha waifus just in general come from this game, like Mona and Ganyu. And clearly, even after 4 years, they haven't lost their touch with new characters such as Zilonen and Chaska. As someone who likes doing endgame content...
Am I the only person that thinks Chaska's like kind of like not Like, she looks like kind of stupid. I feel like she looks so dumb. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, she has to be one of the worst designs they've ever released. Am I wrong for saying that? Am I wrong for that being my take, that she's one of the worst designs ever fucking released? Yeah, I'm not a fan.
As someone who likes doing endgame content for gacha games, I do think it sucks that Genshin doesn't have much of it, to be sure, but for Genshin specifically, I don't find this to be that big of an issue as it might be for other games like Star Rail.
So, my take is that he's kind of just wrong here. Imaginarium Theater is like the worst endgame mode I've ever seen. Imaginarium Theater is 1000% something that actively just made Genshin Impact worse. It required you to do so much absolutely ridiculous like gearing. The fact you need like 20 plus characters, all with their own weapon and artifact, it's a chore. And what they did with Imaginarium Theater is that it delayed the Spiral Abyss. There's less Spiral Abyss resets because it's being shared with the Imaginarium Theater. And the Imaginarium Theater is just like one of the biggest pain in the ass experiences in the game. So it's like the game is literally worse because Imaginarium Theater is in there. It added more chores. And all it did was remove the Spiral Abyss resets and made them once a month instead of every 2 weeks. The game is just worse as a result of it.
Issue as it might be for other games like Star Rail, for instance. I see Genshin as a comfy exploration gacha first and foremost, and that's good enough for me for the most part, and I think that's the best way to look at it for everyone else too. But the single biggest reason why you should not get into Genshin if you're not already playing it is the fact that the game is so damn big now. 8 or so separate regions, and God knows how much unskippable story you have to slog through. Honestly, Genshin is actually one of the most daunting gachas to return to if you haven't played in a while, and while MiHoYo has taken steps to alleviate this problem by letting players like teleport straight to Fontaine and Natlin, for example, it's just nowhere near enough.
You want to know what would have fixed the game for a lot of returning players? The ability to come back after taking a multiple month break and not have just 200 fucking resin. The fact that you can take a 6-month break from the game and you come back to 200 resin is actually like the devs just telling you to go fuck yourself. I don't know any other way to frame it other than, yes, the devs are actually telling you to just go fuck yourself. Imagine you're trying to catch up, you're trying to like get back into the groove, and then you just don't have anything to do. It just incentivizes you to just quit again and then just quit forever.
Nowhere near enough. Nikke is an over-the-shoulder rail shooter RPG. It's the one where you've got hot anime robot girls with fat asses for some reason, twerk all over your screen while blasting big bad robots out of the air. Basically the whole "I need more bullets" TikTok meme from back in the day, except the Koreans made a whole ass game out of it. See what I did there? Nikke is great because it's a relatively low commitment gacha. It's an idle game, as an IDLE, like you don't do much, not idol, like Idol Master, or any of the Hololive girls.
Okay.
There's no farming for the most part, just dailies and event stuff, though. Sometimes there are things like solo raids and union raids that you gotta get done every day that takes more time to do. Even still, once you get past early game, it should only take you about like 15 minutes or so to get all your dailies done, and you don't have to touch the game again for the rest of the day until next reset.
I like the way of wording it where it's like, you don't have to touch the game again. It's like, how about the game is just really good and I want to play it, versus feeling like I have to do something out of obligation. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean?
This is also definitely a Coomer game, and so if you're into jiggling asses and bouncing titties and what self-respecting gacha addict doesn't, then you'll find plenty of that here. The gacha itself is also one of the better ones. 4% chance for an SSR with a coin flip rate up, and there's even a free-to-play gacha that can give you SSRs too, but it's only got a 2% chance for SSRs as a trade-off. However, its best feature is that just like Blue Archive, Nikke also has the same Spark Pity, but with the additional perk that your pity does carry over in between banners.
Ooh.
In fact, you can choose to use your pity on any banner you want in the future, including collaboration banners, which is honestly insane that they let you do this.
That's actually kind of crazy. Imagine if Star Rail releases the Fate collab and it has a shared pity. Or it doesn't have a shared pity. Oh boy. Oh boy. Imagine the Fate collab. It's just Saber's skin for Yunli. I'm just guessing. How awful would that fucking be? Saber has a global passive? Oh, well. I guess the game is cooked. Collab character with a global passive. Saber gives all skills a +2 passive, so she is a must pull or you lose 30% damage on all characters. Just quit the game. Just quit the game. If that's actually true, just quit the game. I'm not, just stop playing. Just stop playing. 1,000,000%, just stop playing.
They let you do this. Its main story is decent from what I hear, but the best stories you'll find in this game are in its events. Nikke puts out banger short stories through its events that contribute to the game's world building, and unlike Star Rail's story that drags on and on and on because Xiaoji wants to sound like he's cooking up some epic story when in reality he's already burnt everything in the pot back in 2.0, Nikke's stories are cooked just right. They hit hard, but they don't take up too much of your time. I guess
it's like the Star Rail community and CCs hating Xiaoji, shaking hands, hating Xiaoji. 1,000,000%.
The only reasons why you wouldn't pick up Nikke is if you don't like the gameplay itself, or if you don't like the idea of people seeing you stare at fat jiggling anime ass cheeks out in public. But hey, to that I say, double down. Stare back at him while playing one-handed.
Did this guy just promote, like, playing this game in public? And then when people start looking at you strangely, to start masturbating while maintaining eye contact with them? So, this is what's gonna happen if you follow Sniper's advice. You will go to jail for a very long time. And while you're in jail, you will miss all your dailies.
Azure Lane is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up gacha based on various historical warships that even include some old-ass sailing ships, if you can believe that. And somehow they're supposed to fight just fine alongside World War II-era battleships and carriers and stuff. This is also another Coomer game, and I would actually argue this is even more of a Coomer game than Nikke is because of its skins. A core part of Azure Lane's marketing and monetization strategy is making some of the most elaborate live 2D skins in the entire gacha market that are higher quality and better priced than almost any other skin you'll find in modern gachas. The one or two exceptions maybe being like Girls for Line 2 or Brown Dust 2. Like, no joke, the characters and the skins are the reason why you play Azure Lane.
Guys, there's so much free porn on the internet nowadays. So much. In so many different places. Games like this, to me, are like, it's almost like OnlyFans, but for a fictional character. It feels like OnlyFans, but for a fictional character that doesn't actually exist. And it's good. Okay.
It's got almost 800 unique characters, so chances are there's a waifu for you in this game that you'll probably really like if you look hard enough. This is also one of the few gachas that...
Come on! Like... Are you serious? Really? What is this? Come on. Seriously? It's so ridiculous. It almost just seems like us, like grotesque. I'm gonna be real. Like, see, that just, it looks ridiculous.
That lets you straight up marry one of your characters, and you can even rename them after marriage to anything you want, within reason, of course. Hilariously enough, the gameplay is the biggest reason why you shouldn't play this game, mainly because you don't really play Azure Lane. All you'll ever really be doing is autoing everything. There are a few times where you do want a manual, but that's only if you want to actually try hard one of the stages, like do like, you know, challenge stages, or you want to play the higher worlds at like chapter 12 onwards. And sometimes this can actually be a plus for some people. If you're looking for a nice, casual, comfy gacha to have up on the side monitor or something and have it play itself while you go do something else.
So you literally, there's no like real mechanical difficulties to the game. You just play everything auto. So yes, this is literally just 2D OnlyFans. That's all it is. This is just OnlyFans, but for like an anime character. There's no game here.
Just ask Numi. And last for this tier, Ether Gazer, which is an action RPG that has more than a passing resemblance to Punishing Gray Raven. Basically, think of PGR, but instead of only having one character out on the field at any given time, your entire team is out there at once. This means that instead of focusing on team rotations and dodging, the gameplay has you concentrate on optimizing individual character combos and resource management, and it's certainly very different from most other action RPG gachas. That, and they have something no other gacha game that I play anyway does, and that's specific character ult combinations, where having 2 or more characters who have an ult chain together lets them use that special ult combo that's stronger than usual and come with a unique animation.
The shit where they like combine together into a different character was kind of fucking sick. I'm going to be entirely real here. Them combining into a whole different character and then using their ultimate ability is pretty fucking cool. What Calcharo does is the opposite. He takes his regular character and then splits into multiple beings. Not as cool.
Aether Gazer has a lot of content and has a lot of nice ideas that I think more gachas should implement. They have their own special guaranteed rate-up banners like Snowbreak does, but they take that a step further by giving you additional custom banners that have way shorter pities for older characters that you can choose. And while characters have unique weapons of sorts, they're called functors in this game. The functor banner is...
I feel like that's what killed the game. That has to be what killed the game. Calling it a fucking functor. Why?
So you can roll for a character's unique functor whenever you want, even after that character's banner has already passed. The gearing system is also very interesting. Instead of having to farm a whole new set of gear if you want to re-gear a character because they got a new set or something, you can just straight up change what gear pieces they have already and keep all the same extra stats that they were holding before. I think the 2 reasons why you wouldn't want to pick up Aether Gazer is because you don't enjoy its gameplay or it's a little too niche for you. It's definitely the smallest gacha that I play in terms of community and player size, and if you're the type who likes being part of a big or at least sizable player base, or community for that matter, then you're probably not going to get that with this game. And the team gameplay does make it feel a lot more button mashy and more chaotic than single character action RPGs do, so you might not like it as much if you can't get used to it.
There are definitely games that feel a little bit button mashy, right? I think the biggest example of like a game that could feel button mashy but also strategic at the same time is like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. There are some characters, right, in Relink, like fucking Lancelot, where you're kind of just, you're spamming buttons to do stuff on Lancelot. But then they also have a character like Siegfried, where if you button mash, you're dog shit. And so it's like a little bit, you know, it's like having like the kit differentiation.
The next tier up has Zealous Zone 0, Wuthering Waves, and Girls Frontline 2.
Siegfried is a skill character. That's what I'm saying. But you can have a game like Relink that can feel button mashy. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like id is button mashy too. A lot of the characters are button mashy. But then you have Siegfried, who's like the antithesis to button mashing, and they're all in the same game. So it's just about the kit, not about like the overall gameplay. And I'm sure Aether Gazer could have a character like Siegfried that's not even close to button mashy.
Zealous Zone 0, Wuthering Waves, and Girls Frontline 2.
Ooh.
These are solid gachas that I would recommend to anyone without major downsides like the other gachas I've talked about, not yet anyway. GFL 2 is a tactical isometric turn-based RPG whose easiest comparison is to the XCOM games, but don't worry, there's no chance to miss attacks here. It's got amazing character models. If you're a degenerate feet lover, then this game is for you. Oh boy, oh boy. It's got a dorm feature where you can get real
Just watch porn.
parasocial with your gun waifus, or as we in the business like to call them, raifus. And just like in the first game, you can even marry them. Not all of
Just watch porn.
them yet, but the more popular ones you can, and they're adding more in the future. Unsurprisingly, it follows the Hoyo gacha formula of expensive rolls, character and weapon banners, with the standard banner that has perma 5-star characters and weapons on it, soft and hard pities, and guaranteed alternating rate ups. It also has its own beginner 5-star banner, and the standard banner also lets you pick one perma 5-star of your choice after you do a total of 30 multis on it.
Not too bad. There's a reason why I think I haven't heard a lot of people complaining about Girls Frontline's gacha, but they're also not like praising the gacha either. It's kind of just like, it's there and nobody really cares about it.
One major improvement that Girls Frontline 2 has, however, is its standard banner, which recently got updated with its own rate up, meaning that you can choose which exact perma 5-star character or weapon that you'd like to get, and it
Oh, I guess this is technically better than Wuwa's then. I guess it is just straight up better than Wuwa's, because in Wuwa you get to select the weapon, but you can't select the character, and in here you can select a weapon or character. Yeah, this is good.
basically acts like a normal limited banner where you either get what you selected, or if you don't get them, then your next 5-star item on standard is...
Oh, never mind. So the standard has a 50-50. Never mind, Wuwa's is in fact better.
Guaranteed to be that rate up that you selected. It's certainly not the first gacha to do this. Other games like Snow.
I don't think your standard banner needs to be 50-50. I'm gonna be real here. Like, your standard banner being 50-50 it sounds retarded. Like, you're losing your 50-50 to what's on the standard banner. Does your standard banner also need to be 50-50? I mean, come on. Like, come on.
Break, Ether Gazer, and Wuwa, technically, with its own standard weapon banner, have already done this themselves. But it's nice to see more gachas do this, so hopefully this becomes more the norm. The gameplay itself is also
one of the worst experiences in Genshin Impact is the fact that you can get a weapon when you wanted a standard character. Like, the fact that you're pulling on the character banner and you can end up with a weapon that, like, there's so many bad standard weapons in Genshin. There's so many bad standard 5-star weapons in Genshin. It is unbelievable. Like, just stuff that is completely 1,000,000% cooked 5 years into the game's launch, and they're still not usable. The fucking Skyward Spine, and then the Skyward Greatsword. Basically, every weapon in the Skyward series that isn't the harp is worse than losing a 50-50. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh my god. It's just, there's so much actual dog shit in the Genshin standard weapon banner. It's unreal. They actually just needs removed. So much of the stuff needs removed.
Also pretty good if you're a fan of turn-based gameplay. You can get a feel for how the game plays even without paying attention to the actual mechanics, but I'm sure you can nerd it out and play even better the more you learn how the game actually works. Or in other words, it's easy to play, but a bit harder to master.
Okay.
A huge improvement over what the first game was like, that's for sure.
The main thing is that, well, this isn't like Azure Lane where there isn't a game to play and you're doing it just for the cooming factor. This game actually has a game to play. It's just the cooming is a layer on top. So if I were to rank Girls Frontline and Azure Lane, I do think Girls Frontline would be a bit higher.
It even has auto in case you can't actually be bothered to play it yourself and you think your team is strong enough to handle their own for the most part.
I'm glad there's an auto for a game like this because I can imagine like the lower difficulty encounters just get tiring. The lower difficulty encounters have to be exhausting in a title like this. Absolutely fucking exhausting.
Though keep in mind that auto is kind of finicky in this game and will implode on certain maps that have objectives that aren't just, you know, kill everybody on the map.
I stand corrected.
It's also got sweep clears like Blue Archive and Ether Gazer, so using your stamina should be instant. Best of all, GFL2 feels significantly more generous than any of the Hoyo games, with maybe the exception of Zenless Zone Zero, despite basically modeling itself after them. There are plenty of ways to earn gems, and especially standard banner tickets, so even as a free-to-play, I feel like you'll be able to roll standard banner pretty often and get that guaranteed 5-star character from it a lot faster too. Right
Okay.
now, the only potential issue it has is its content. It's got quite a few endgame modes, but there's quite a bit of downtime in between their refresh cycles, and there's no roguelike mode that you can sink a lot of time into that a lot of other gacha games have. Then again, you could see this as a good thing, since once you do all the endgame stuff that we have right now, you can just kick back and relax, save up for the next banner and stuff. And besides, GFL2 is the most recent gacha game that I play. It's only been like 2.5 months since the NA server came out, so I'm sure they'll add more content as time goes on. Wuthering Waves is up next, and it's an open world action RPG. It's a Genshin clone, which will piss off the WoWa players, but hey, it's true. I made a whole ass video even comparing WoWa to Genshin, so go check that out if you want to know more.
I feel like this video got dislike bombed, but was it really a bomb if the dislikes were warranted? The games are similar, but there's also a very frightening amount of differentiators. I feel like there are enough differentiators in WoWa, especially in the combat, to the point where you kind of can't really say this very much anymore. I can get where you're coming from, right? If you're doing things like exploration, because, whoa, you go around and you pick up chests. Whoa, you go to points of interest and you're able to teleport. So it must be a clone. But then you go in and then you play the fights, and the fighting is 1,000,000% different. The combat is 1,000,000% different in every single way.
More about what I think about Wuthering Waves. Since WoWa takes a lot from Genshin, I'll be comparing these two accordingly. While Genshin's the superior exploration gacha, Wuwa, on the other hand, has superior combat gameplay. It's less forgiving, enemies are much tougher.
You gotta also have the frame of mind that this guy loves Genshin's exploration. And if you're a person that loves Genshin's exploration, then I can imagine that there might be like something going into
How's that for a magic trick?
the Woowa thing here.
You have to know basic mechanics, and you have to know how to play your character properly to get the most mileage out of them. But all this...
Damn. That's the Lappy Lumen Myriad. Bro's running the Glacio damage side on Jeja. You wanna know what team this Jeja's on? It's with Jinzi. Maybe he has S6? Yo, maybe he does. Maybe he pulled S6 Jeja because he too agrees that Jeja looks like Fob Master. And I can tell this dude loves Fob.
makes beating bosses and other endgame content much more satisfying, far more than anything you'd face in Genshin. Speaking of endgame content, Wuwa has more of that than Genshin too. I wouldn't say it's a lot more, but the fact that there are dedicated high difficulty challenge stages scattered throughout the map is a good step above Genshin already. And they just added another endgame mode, I think it's endgame anyway, called Whimpering Wastes or something like that, and it refreshes weekly. And as I mentioned earlier when talking about Genshin, Wuwa has more streamlined open world exploration with gadgets that make it a lot easier to travel around finding chests and questing.
Yeah, it's just Genshin Impact has all of these tools as well. You simply just have to spend $300 per character for it.
Only getting better with each region since 2.0 introduced flying, though admittedly it's only limited to just Renacita. My favorite improvements in Wuwa over Genshin though are the weapon banners and the skip button. Coming from Hoyo games where weapons are not guaranteed, the limited weapon banners in Wuwa giving you guaranteed rate-ups is amazing. And as a cherry on top, even its standard weapon banner is guaranteed, and you can even pick which perma 5-star weapons you want, though it's usually going to be either the sword or the pistols because, you know, crit rate. And the skip button is just a godsend since MiHoYo apparently doesn't know what that is. Well, they do in Zenless, but not in the games that actually need one.
I'm not gonna lie, Zenless only has the skip button where it's not necessary. That's what I've started to realize. Zenless doesn't actually have the skip button in the areas where it needs to be. The skip button only shows up for the really good dialogues, their really good voice dialogues, and their really good cutscenes. That's the only time they have the skip button available. It's like literally the times that you would just not use it because the content's actually good. But when the content is like dog shit, it's like AI translated filth where like the sentence structure doesn't even like make sense and it's super wordy. The skip button is not there. Just look at any event in the game. It doesn't make sense. Why only have the skip button for something that's like good that you want to watch and then don't put it for the garbage? Their implementation of it needs to be studied. Zenless's skip button needs to be fucking studied because it is one of the worst features they have in the game. I'm not even joking.
Skip buttons are a must in gacha games. That is non-negotiable. So Genshin and Starro not having them is an absolute sin against humanity.
I don't think Bro really has the full picture of how bad Zenless's skip button truly is. It is fucking garbage.
You have no idea how glad I am to know that newer gachas know not to leave it out. Speaking of Zenless, Z3 is by far the best out of the big three Hoyo games. Makes sense, since it's their latest gacha, so they've got the most amount of gacha experience going into its development, and it's the smallest in terms of overall player size, so they're treating it better than the other two to get more people to play it.
True.
Still big by normal gacha standards, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly not as big as the other two even still. You can only split up your player base so many times after all. It's an action RPG not unlike Wuwa. Matter of fact, gameplay-wise, these two games are fairly similar, or maybe it's better to say that they have quite a few similarities. Zenless is flashier though, and thus more visually appealing, and while
Debatable about the visually appealing part. I don't know. I feel like Carlotta's Liberation I feel like both of the cinematics in Carlotta's Liberation kind of just clear everything in ZZZ. Her casting the initial shot and then her final shot. I'm of the opinion that Carlotta's Liberation clears all of ZZZ.
while Wuwa's gameplay is good and rewarding, I personally find myself mauling at it quite a bit.
STFU. Wuwa doesn't have wipe-out ass screens, buddy, so ZZZ is more visually appealing. Hey, Fob, you want to know what Carlotta's Liberation, the second part, is? The first frame of it? It's literally an ass shot of Carlotta pulling the gun out from under her dress. Buddy boy, I don't need to clear the stage to get those shots. You just get it in gameplay. Evelyn has more jiggle than the entire Wuwa roster put together. Hey, guess what, Fob? Evelyn's Forte circuit. You know the one where she like throws all the things and then flips her hair and explodes it? Stolen from Carlotta. Hey, Evelyn's the backbone of Evelyn's kit is stolen from Carlotta's Forte circuit. You stole your look from Bobby Lee. Brother, I thought we were talking about games. I thought we were talking about gacha games. I thought we were talking about gacha games, but we're going over there. Okay. Hey, Fob, when are you going to start your roof? When are you going to start your roof Korean arc? When are you going to start your roof Korean arc and start sniping all of these tourists ruining your gacha games? You got to protect your kingdom, buddy. Also, and this is the #1 way to get Fob. This is the #1 way to get Fob to leave my chat. Fob, when are you going to cosplay Jeja? All you need are like 2 hair extensions, and I think you're done. It's like one of the most low effort ones. Like, you just need 2 hair extensions and you're done. When I open my OnlyFans... That's the funniest part. Fob loves twin tails too. And the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if he already had the twin tail extensions. I feel like bro does like secret Rin cosplays by himself. WTF, I don't need that. I got a girlfriend. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like you did have a girlfriend the last time you dressed up like a girl. So I don't think that excuse works. Because I'm pretty sure you already had that's why your makeup looked like so accurate. Sub goal's a sub goal, buddy. Bob chat, you know what you need to do. You need to make a sub goal so that he dresses up as Jeja. And it should be a cheap sub goal because there's not very much he needs to do. There's not very much Fob needs to do to get it done. Let's be honest here. I haven't had a subathon in over a year. It's never happening again. There's a reason I don't do subathons anymore. Yeah, because you probably realize you were bricking up too many of your viewers with your cosplays, and they started getting weird. Look at that. You've even got a fan right here. They created a whole Twitch account. Ban that guy. Ban that guy. Oh, now I have to VIP him, Fob. Look what you... now I have to VIP him. Hey, Fabina cosplay. Type again. Hey, Fob. It's deal time. If you cosplay as... I'm out of here. This place is a den for criminals. This is literally like the most like pot calling kettle moment I've ever seen. This is literally like the biggest pot calling kettle moment I might have ever seen. Calling my chat a den for criminals. Fob calling my chat a den for criminals. Guys, if you spent like 2 seconds in Fob's chat, you would be like, holy shit, this place should be kind of quarantined.
Healing. And while Wuwa's gameplay is good and rewarding, I personally find myself mauling at it quite a bit, especially whenever I'm playing the TAC hologram bosses, or worse, because bosses at that difficulty are sometimes infuriating to play against. And yes, it is a skill issue, so you don't have to say it yourself, but first of all, imagine caring about skill in a gacha game.
True. You shouldn't care about skill in a gacha game. And if you don't care about skill, you also shouldn't care about completing any of the endgame at the same exact time. If you think skill in a gacha game doesn't matter, and you're also complaining about not clearing the endgame, that is also an argument that simply goes nowhere.
And second of all, I don't maul at Zenless, at least not nearly as much as I do playing Wuwa. Really, the only time I've maulded in Zenless was when I was playing Battle Tower once, and that was pretty much it. Zenless's gameplay feels a lot more fair, if that's the right word. Like, whenever I make a mistake in Zenless, I'm usually like, oh, like, that's my fault. I can play better than that. And that's definitely not always the case in Wuwa.
If he's talking about holograms, sure. But I don't think that's the case in any content outside of holograms. Because let's be fair here, right? First timing the Div 6 Hikari fight, or honestly, the Div 5 Hikari fight, does like feel like a little bit unfair. Hikari 1,000,000%, the first time you fight her in like her actual like hologram form, she is an unfair fight. And the only way to clear the Hikari fight is to repeatedly get like booty tickled by it. If you don't have like a couple of deaths under your belt in the Hikari fight, you actually cannot do it. There is no way to first time it. It is impossible to first time the Hikari fight with no prior knowledge of the moveset. I would 100% like put some real money on that. I do not think it is possible to first time the Hikari fight without having prior runs.
Besides its gameplay, Zenless is also the most generous and has the most accessible content out of the big three Hoyo games, in part since, like I said earlier, it's the newest one, and as of this video hasn't even been out for a year yet. While investing into characters still takes a while, building them overall is easier in this game, and even though it still has the annoying ass gearing system that the other two games have, it's at least a little more tolerable with the improvements it has that the other two don't.
Zenless costs too much. It actually costs too much money, too much dennies to upgrade everything in this game. It is insane how much in like just the money resource it takes to level things up in this game. It is unreal. I have never felt poverty on like the currency scale so hard as I have in a game like Zenless. It's nuts.
And even though I don't follow the story itself, I would say it's got the best one out of the three.
True. I do think Zenless actually has the best story out of all the Hoyoverse games. The fact of the matter is, though, you do not get very much of it because it's story, then filler patch, then story, then filler patch, then story, then filler patch. And they can't just release two main story patches in a row. It's frustrating.
Simply because it has a skip button. And even though you can't actually skip everything, it's still nice to skip some of it at least. And even the parts you can't skip, you can usually click through really fast anyway, so it's not too bad. The little bits of dialogue I have bothered reading, on top of that, seem much better written too, since Zenless characters don't feel the need to stand there yapping my ass off about stuff that I don't give a shit about, and the story overall seems much more grounded and down to earth than like Genshin or Star Rail. There's nothing really bad that I can say about Zenless, I don't think, other than maybe the fact that it's unfortunately still a Hoyo game. That being said, it's still the best big gacha that I play. Yes, even better than Wuwa. Sorry, Kuro Glazers, Wuwa's good, but not quite as good as Zenless, in my opinion. And as a bonus, its community is also, from what I can tell, the best and most chill one out of the big Hoyo 3. So,
well, according to the revenue report, Touhou Sniper, Wuthering Waves made more money than Zenless Zone Zero, so it's actually the better game. It's actually the better game. You're cooked, buddy.
So you won't run into the usual Hoyo tards like you would with the other two. Well, hopefully not anyway. And especially with its 1.4 soft relaunch that fixed a lot of issues that most people had with,
like removing the fucking TVs. The one change that saves Zenless Zone Zero is the removal of a feature from the game. God, man, that's crazy.
If you've ever been curious to try this game out, I say you definitely should. Now, finally, started from the bottom, now we here. The absolute top tier. Peak gacha, the cream of the crop, the GOAT gacha, and whatever other phrase that I can use to describe the best of the best. Arknights. The fact that I have a 20+ minute video doing nothing but glazing the out of that game should be good enough. But I'll give you a quick rundown of it anyway on why Arknights is the best. It has the most amount of playable content out of any gacha I've played. All of its story, past and present, is playable. It has multiple game modes, and the most robust roguelike mode I've ever seen in a gacha, which has 4 different versions, by the way. 5 if you include the first edition of it, which was a limited time event back in the day, and was so popular the devs made it a permanent game mode from the second version onwards.
How much time does this guy have to play games? Because, like, he's, like, gushing about all of this replayable content, and I'm just like, he's already playing this many games? How much time does he have for replayable content? It's like, bro seems like he has 25 hours a day without sleep, or like with sleep. Like, what? I don't know how he has this much time. Does he sleep? I feel like he has never missed a daily.
Honestly, Hypergriff could probably take integrated strategies and turn just that into its own standalone roguelike tower defense game without adding much else. That's how much content it has. And it's actually fun and stays fun, unlike most other gacha roguelikes. While I wouldn't say it's
Wait,
gacha
was that Capitano?
like
Yo! Yo, Capitano's alive, guys. He's just in Arknights. That's crazy.
While I wouldn't say its gacha is like the best system ever, it's like in the middle, not bad, but could definitely be better. This is mitigated by the fact that high rarity operators are usually just luxuries, and lower rarities are perfectly fine, usually, for the job. Even more so, the better you are at the game itself.
HSR could never.
Gameplay itself is as fair as you're gonna get for a gacha, man. Not much RNG, and if you're stuck on a stage, you can always watch any of the dozens of videos for it on YouTube by Arknights content creators who show you exactly how to clear it, oftentimes with lower rarity units that you probably have.
So what is the problem with any other end game when you could use the advice of go watch somebody else do it so you can figure out what to do, and like that's suddenly like now okay for Arknights to have a difficult end game because you could watch somebody else do it. We couldn't do that for the other games.
And unique to Arknights, out of all my gachas, it has by far the best voice acting out of any of them.
Subjective. Carlotta clears the entire roster, buddy boy.
It's becoming more common for new gachas these days to, come out with multiple dubs like Japanese, Chinese, Korean.
Yeah, Carlotta clears in every language, buddy boy.
Korean and English, obviously, but you'd be hard-pressed, even to this day, to find other gacha games that have Italian, German, and Russian dubs.
I don't want to say this sounds like a waste of money or misallocated resources, but I kind of think it is a slight waste of money and reallocated resources, like additional stuff that like you could literally take the entire team dedicated to this and just have them do literally anything else.
Along with specific dialects or accents for Chinese and English. These aren't full dubs.
Like English is kind of enough. Like, and I don't mean this from the perspective of like, oh, he's just an EN supremacist. No, English is kind of just enough because everybody learns English in Europe. Like everybody to a degree, at least in the modern era, learns some degree of English in Europe. Like it is kind of mandatory for the modern world, if you're a younger person in the modern world, to learn English. And so having the like specific European dubs is like a little bit self-defeating when like a lot of Europe knows English. Or they learn it in their classes, they learn it in education. It's mandatory for me in school. It should be. If English is like not mandatory in the country that like you had your education in, they kind of just fucked you. I'm going to be honest. They kind of just fucked you.
Admittedly, only a few characters are voiced in languages that aren't, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or English, but no other gacha that I play puts in more effort into its voice acting than Arknights does, and it's not even close.
I mean, this is the thing, though, but it's like, to make it the creme de la creme, the best game ever, but then we're gushing this much about the voice acting, it's like, voice acting is like, let's be honest, if we're talking about in terms of like gameplay, the overall stuff that like brings you back to the game and makes you enjoy it, like voice acting in other languages that you don't understand doesn't really seem like something that I would weight very high. Is that fair to say? Like voice acting in a language that I don't even fucking understand, like I wouldn't consider that like a factor in like how good a gacha game is. I'm being entirely real here. I don't necessarily know if it needs to be like glazed this much.
And that's what my gacha ranking tier list looks like, so hopefully this gives you a better idea of how good each of these games are. Which ones did you guys agree with, and which ones did you disagree with? Let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, check out my socials, subscribe to the channel for more gacha content, and follow me on Twitch to catch any of my gacha streams. Also check out my Patreon if you want to support my content even further. That's it from me. Thanks for watching. Be cool, y'all.
I think that this was actually, in a lot of ways, it was a pretty solid video. I actually thought that this video had a lot of detail, a lot of context. Some of his reasons were like slightly disagreeable, but I do think that he was pretty factual. He was pretty correct on a lot of things. The one thing that I would say that's a little bit off about the vid is that bro kind of just had... Bro had some shots. And I feel like I could detect like a bit of malice in some of the commentary that was being made, specifically about other CCs. It's perfectly fine for him to do that. And what I will say is that when it came to the shots that he did have, I would say they were like acceptable shots, right? They talked about like actual facts, actual takes that those individuals had. He didn't really attack like their character. He mostly entirely just attacked their take. Or their actions. And so not really even like a big problem in there for me personally from the shots that he took. So with that, again, I thought it was actually a pretty good video, and peace out.